The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It is one of the most famous and popular classics in the East. Even 2,500 years after it was written, many people today seek advice from this ancient Chinese military text on how to be successful in business, sports, and so on. Indeed, some of the teachings by Sun Tzu are timeless, since his arguments are based on profound insights into human nature and psychology. However, the values and the environments today are quite different from his time. Bows and arrows have been replaced by drones and missiles, and a supervisor at work is not allowed to kill his or her subordinates when they are not obedient, like Sun Tzu did. In order to draw lessons from classics, we need to differentiate what is universal from what is not, and imagine how to apply it to our own situation. At the same time, we have to be careful not to overly generalize the arguments by ignoring the differences in context. On the flip side, deciphering classics becomes an effective intellectual exercise. Reading classics may serve as a good remedy for the modern tendency to seek quick and superficial answers. What lessons do you extract from one of the greatest classics in human history? Sun Tzu says, "To fight and win 100 battles is not the height of skill." You may be puzzled at this quote. What does it mean that 100% victory rate is not the best? Sun Tzu continues, "To subdue the enemy without fighting is the height of skill." The problem is having had 100 battles in the first place. Sun Tzu was not a pacifist. He opposes war from a rational, strategic perspective, rather than moral grounds. Fighting costs lives and money. Even if you win, it inflicts significant damage on the nation's economy. A military action is nothing more than a means to an end, and it is just one of the options to achieve strategic goals: seizing territory and resources, repelling invasions, assisting allied nations, and so on. Since fighting wastes resources, it is usually the worst choice. Therefore, we need to contemplate if there is another, better way. What he criticizes is that military leaders often make means an end in itself, without any consideration of whether or not it leads to the ultimate strategic goal. The first line of The Art of War states, "War is of vital importance to the state. It is the matter of life and death, a road either to survival or ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which should never be neglected." Sun Tzu realized the harm of warfare more than anyone else, precisely because he was the master of warfare. War is just a means to achieve political or diplomatic goals, and it is often the worst option because it consumes a vast amount of resources. However, what if you come to realize after careful consideration that you have no choice but to fight? Sun Tzu says, "A victorious army only seeks battle after the victory has been secured, whereas a defeated army goes to war first and seeks to win afterwards." Since skillful leaders only fight when they are ready to win, they claim victory so easily and safely. On the other hand, poor strategists start searching for ways to win only after the battle has already begun, which often results in defeats. In other words, we should only go to war after making every possible preparation, dispelling any wishful thinking, and securing victory in advance. Sun Tzu also states, "To lift a hair is so easy that nobody praises that strength." Skillful military leaders win with such an ease, so his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. According to The Art of War, those who are praised for lucky and dramatic victories are nothing more than mediocre strategists. True masters are usually unnoticeable. They make every effort to establish a situation where victory is as easy as lifting a hair. Sun Tzu consistently emphasizes the importance of preparation before engaging in war, but he also discusses the tactics during actual combat. For example, there is an interesting argument in the 8th chapter. "Always leave an outlet when you surround your enemy. Do not press a desperate enemy too hard." This may also sound counterintuitive for many. Why do we have to provide an escape path for the enemy forces which we want to crush? This is not out of morals and compassion. Again, Sun Tzu was not a pacifist, and his treatise is about how to succeed in war. When you are cornered in a dire situation with no exit free, you will inevitably fight with all your might because it is the only way to survive. Fighting such a desperate army is tough. Even if you win, you will suffer enormous losses. However, once the hostile soldiers find their way out, they will try to flee from the exit, losing their spirit to fight back hard. Chasing an enemy in flight is far easier than bringing down a desperate army, so you can easily claim victory with the minimum casualties necessary. Sun Tzu warns against reaching an easy, hasty conclusion without careful consideration. A military leader is responsible for the lives of people and the security of the nation. His decisions have to be based on profound insights into the psychological conditions of soldiers in a specific situation. Sun Tzu's pragmatic and rational approach is not only aimed at the enemy, but also his soldiers. For example, Sun Tzu says, "Place your army in the face of death, and it will survive," because soldiers display their true strengths only when they are in crisis. He also wrote, "Successful generals look to the effect of combined energy and do not require much from individuals." Sun Tzu argues that leaders should strive to create a situation where soldiers inevitably exert their full strength, rather than expecting a lot from individual skills and motivation. Driving your soldiers into a critical situation is one of the ways to generate motivation to fight fiercely and bring momentum to the army. It may sound cruel and inhumane, but soldiers never praise a general who cannot bring victory and let them survive, no matter how kind and compassionate he is. After returning alive, the joy of survival will replace the fear of facing death, so the soldiers will forget the temporary resentment against the general. The essence of Sun Tzu's leadership comes down to the following words: "He will win whose army is animated by the same purpose throughout all its ranks." What matters is to create a condition where both soldiers and generals share the same objectives. Victory is unlikely when the commander alone is desperate to win, while his soldiers don't know the reason for fighting. If you tell your soldiers to work hard when they actually don't have any motives to work hard, you are virtually saying nothing.